I'm not down on owning real estate. I just want you to be careful. And I also want to point out, as someone who has a lot of experience doing this, is that it's not all roses and rainbows. It's not easy to be a landlord, and you have to be prepared for what it is you're going into. You have to know the landlord-tenant rules in your area. You know, there might be some based on certain cities, certain counties, certain states, and there's federal laws. So make sure you know what those are. In my opinion, the best way to make sure you're sticking to all of the rules is to work with a property management company, because they will ensure that you don't get off track with what you're doing. There's a lot of rules around discrimination. There's a lot of rules around notification. There's a lot of rules around equal housing. There's things that you might not think about, and why would you if you don't know these things? So hiring a professional, at least in the beginning, I think is a great way to go. Make sure that you have a very thorough rental agreement. I'm gonna give you a couple examples of things that are on a rental agreement. So, you know, we've allowed pets to be in some of our properties. We've allowed pets. And look, I have 2 dogs. I love dogs. I love animals. But not everyone, you know, treats their animals or takes care of their animals or picks up after their animals in the same way, right? And so you don't know what you're getting into when you allow your tenant to have animals. So, for instance, we have some rules around, you can have mid-size dogs. They need to be spayed and neutered, and they can be your family pet. But and you might think, well, that's pretty specific. Well, do you want someone having, you know, like breeding puppies, breeding cats, breeding animals in your home? I mean, maybe you're okay with that, but if you're not specific in your rental agreement, then that can happen. Vehicles, you know, being specific about how many vehicles can be parked at the property. You know, we have rules in our rental agreement that say every vehicle that's on the property, first of all, there's a limit to how many vehicles. Second of all, they all need to be running and operational. Thirdly, they all have to have current tabs. They have to be registered and legal to drive at any given time. Now, why are these things important? Like, if there's room, you're like, well, Tony, there's plenty of room. I could have a couple cars there. Well, have you ever had a tenant move out and abandon their property? Because I have multiple times. And dealing with a car that gets left behind, that isn't running, that hasn't been licensed, that's a massive nuisance, you know, for you to deal with. You got lost title issues, and, you know, you got to call the sheriff, and you got to do all these things, file reports, you know, et cetera. So these are just the things that, unfortunately, I've been burned on, and I want to bring them up, because if you're in the mindset of, I want to become a landlord, I need to own real estate, these are just a few things that I hope that you think about. And I would watch other videos. I would talk to other people that have been landlords and really understand, like, what are the potential pitfalls that I could deal with? What are the potholes that I don't want to run over that I might deal with if I become a landlord? And just know that, like any other investment, it can be very lucrative, but there can also be significant downsides. And I would say that one of the biggest mistakes I see people do when they acquire real estate is they've already stretched their budget to the max, and they don't have any reserves. You know, most loan programs are going to require you to have some reserves in the bank, and reserves are important, because if someone ruins a house to the point that it's uninhabitable by a new tenant, you have to get that, you know, fixed back up to be able to get it back on the market, or, you know, you have to make double mortgage payments. I mean, things can go sideways quickly, and there's ways of mitigating that.